If you're a casual puzzler who enjoys the occasional jigsaw but don't have hours to dedicate, these wooden puzzles from Ravensburger are a perfect fit. Each one has 150 pieces from their wooden series, so they're completely doable in under an hour. But don't be fooled by the small piece count. These are thoughtfully designed artistic puzzles that provide a nice challenge without ever tipping into frustration. You'll always feel like you're making progress, which adds to the excitement. Let's start with the Colourful Fox, and later in the video we'll move on to the Mysterious Owl. Now, let's tip the pieces and get going. Each box has the pieces nestled securely in a brown paper bag. Once opened, you're greeted with a lovely scent that reminds me of a bookshop. Our whole puzzle room takes on this warm, inviting smell. I know not everyone is a fan of it, but personally, I love it. Also tucked inside is a small sheet of paper I use to keep track of my solve times. I'm not a speed puzzler by any means, but timing myself is a fun way to look back on my previous builds. It's a nice way to see how I do when I revisit the same puzzle again, and also to compare my times across different puzzles. If I ever lend this puzzle to someone, or eventually pass it on, the timesheet can become a shared record, updated by the next puzzler. I think it's a fun little quirk that adds another layer of connection to the puzzle. Pieces on the table, timer running, here we go. I want to slow the time-lapse down for a few moments so you can really see how the bigger islands of pieces start connecting and forming the overall picture. It's really something to watch seeing these sections come together, piece by piece and slowly taking shape. You can start to see how pieces begin to fit together, how certain sections naturally take shape, and how the islands slowly start linking up. Puzzles don't have to be built in a uniform way. It's not uncommon to work on different areas separately and then link them later. This particular puzzle doesn't have a traditional edge, which makes it a bit more challenging. Building the edge first can be a helpful strategy, depending on the puzzle. But yeah, it's more about building sections or different images, like flowers, part of the fox, or sections of color, and then connecting them as you go. With this puzzle in particular, it can be a bit tricky to move or connect a big section of pieces. The way the pieces fit together is really delicate, so sometimes the whole thing can start to shift or fall apart if you try and lift or adjust it. By no means does this mean the puzzle is bad quality, it's just the way the unique piece cuts work. You often have to work carefully, adding pieces in and around each section. It's only when picking up a section that things can get tricky. Sliding it gently on the table is usually fine. Alright, we're getting really close to the finish now. Just a few more pieces left to fit. Let's wrap this up and get the time lapse moving again. Now that the fox is all put together, let's take a closer look at what makes this puzzle so special. One of the coolest things about Ravensburger's wooden series are the whimsies, those fun little pieces cut into recognizable shapes. While you're building, you'll suddenly spot a tiny animal, an object, or some abstract design hiding in the mix, and it adds an extra layer of surprise and fun to the whole experience. The piece cut itself is also worth pointing out. These puzzles have a really solid feel, with each piece being around 5mm thick. They slot together nice and firmly, and honestly, handling them feels pretty premium. I have no complaints around quality on these puzzles. They are well worth picking up and trying for yourself. And then of course, the artwork. The artwork for both this fox and the owl I'll be building next are by the artist Pixie Cold. I'll link an interview with her in the description if you're curious. It's a great read. She was born in Germany and works in all kinds of media: watercolors, markers, acrylics, inks, and even pens. You can really see her style come through here. The bold colors and clean shapes keep the build flowing and never boring. I honestly enjoyed looking at the image just as much as snapping the pieces together. One last detail for those who are interested in origin. Although Ravensburger is based in Germany, both this puzzle and the owl were manufactured in Poland, where Ravensburger produces their wooden line. Alright, with the fox wrapped up, let's check out the stats from this solve compared to my previous times. Here you can see my solve times for the fox puzzle spread out over the last few months. And here you can see it nicely illustrated in graph form. Alright, let's move on to the mysterious owl puzzle. that's it for the Ravensburger's Mysterious Owl puzzle. Honestly, this one's always such a blast to put together, and I swear I enjoy it just as much every single time I build it. Here's a quick look at my solve times for the owl puzzle spread out over the last few months. The graph represents the data from the table in the previous screen. And that's it for today's puzzling session. If you've made it all the way to the end of the video, thank you so much for sticking around and sharing this build with me. I really enjoyed putting these wooden puzzles together, but what makes it even better is being able to share the experience with you. Hopefully you found it relaxing, maybe even inspiring. And if you're working on your own puzzle right now, I hope the pieces are treating you kindly. I'd love to hear in the comments if you've ever tried one of these Ravensburger wooden puzzles, or even just what your favorite recent puzzle has been. Sharing those little details makes this feel less like a video and more like a conversation, which is really what I enjoy about doing this. So thanks again for joining me, and until next time, happy puzzling.